Hi, I'm Mark, and I run the Calm Revolution. I help individuals and organisations operate from that calm-seeking place. I've worked across the world for many organisations. I was born in New Zealand, I lived in Europe, went back to New Zealand, and now I'm in Singapore. But above everything else that I've done, there's one important thing. I'm a father. I have two children. My daughter is 20. She is in her final year at university. She's studying statistics. She's brilliant at it. She's going to get a job in big data. How she found her way there, I have no idea. But she's just so talented. My son is 18. He's living with us. Our job is nearly over. We always thought that our job is complete when our children get to university, because then they can actually make some decisions about their lives. He's a talented diplomat. He has an incredible interest in world affairs, so living in Singapore is a fantastic place for him. He's the Secretary General of the Security Council in the Model UN here in Singapore, and I have no doubt that he's going to end up in a similar place once he's out into the world. Fatherhood changed me in such a fundamental way. All of a sudden, I had to think about someone else, and I had to do that. They were dependent upon me. So rather than being focused entirely on what I wanted, the game entirely changed to think as what is the best for my children. I remember when we took my daughter home from the hospital, and I was thinking, is there a course or a manual? Is this allowed? We hadn't even had a pet before, and all of a sudden we have this living, breathing human being who we're supposed to look after. Now, it was a strange feeling, but as everyone will tell you, you do find your way. But having this awesome responsibility, that is very different. Of course, other things happened as well. In the early years, all of a sudden, our life was not our own. This was the biggest shock, that all of a sudden, our life was centred around looking after someone else. And I think many people who are new to parenthood will say everything changed. And it's tough, and it's normally at a time when work is tough and you're building your career, and you also can't sleep. But for some reason, all of the rewards of this, of simply being that person who can be a great parent, seems to far outweigh any discomfort. I was working in management, and it was interesting how your view of how you treat people changes once you're a parent. For some reason, you're not thinking of yourself as much as you're actually thinking of the welfare of others. And I think this is a fundamental thing about being a parent, that all of a sudden you are devoting yourself to someone other than yourself. And in work, this transforms the way that you manage people as well. Just imagine, as a manager, that every action that you're taking is trying to make someone else do things better. That's quite a change. I had a fortunate life. I had no doubts my parents loved me. I always felt bathed in my parents' love. But it was different when I had children of my own, because then I truly understood what it was to love a human being unconditionally, without judgment, and to devote myself to their welfare. Doing what I do, which is helping people find the innate health they have within them, means our approach to parenting is probably a bit unusual as well. But there's a fundamental thing. It's whether you see your child as innately whole and just in need of guidance, or innately broken and needing training. We've always looked at what is good for our child. And when you're operating out of love, you're seeing them as a complete and wonderful human being, not as some kind of flawed personality. And I'm so pleased to see how my children now, what they're doing, their view of the world and how they approach it. I knew then, and I know now, it was the right way to do things. It's interesting to think about sacrifice for children. I've never really thought of it that way. Once you're a parent, it is what it is. And I can imagine another life where I hadn't had to pay, a larger house to have them, and the school fees, and I mean, everything becomes 4 times as expensive. So I imagine I'd be driving a Ferrari by now and living in a mansion. That's a fantasy. I mean, it is what it is, and I have no regrets. The wealth that you have simply through family and children is so immense. It's never felt like a sacrifice. So the biggest thing we had to give up on was sleep. Those first couple of years, when you were never sure whether you were going to sleep through the night or not. I think the Marines have a saying that says, eat when you can, sleep when you can, because you never know when you get a chance. And for the first couple of years it was like that. You know, we didn't go out, we didn't stay out late because sleep was such a precious commodity. We'd get that as soon as we could. And for some reason, young children that have an alarm clock, you know, like the sun's up, then it's time to play, even if it's 6 o'clock in the morning. So, yeah, sure, it's pretty trying. I think many people become parents at a time when they also have to devote a lot of time to their career as they try and make their mark. They've normally had to buy a house, and so they're short of money as well. Young parents need all the help and support from everyone they can get, because it truly is a tough time. Fortunately, as children get older, your career develops, but things do get easier. But those initial years are actually very hard. What would I say to other fathers? Well, we've all been through a lot of things. But the things I remember is this: to try and make sure that every action, every word, every deed is actually driven by love, by trying to work out what is best for their welfare. But there's actually one other thing, and you might remember from your parents as well. You know, you can say what you like, but what they really understand is who you are. It's not what you say, it's what you do. It's your example that they do. I've certainly noticed some differences between New Zealand, British culture and again here in Singapore. Parents typically don't live with their children when they're older. They're expected to have enough money to look after themselves, and certainly would consider having the children support them as them being a burden on them. I see here a far more close-knit, more mutually supportive family, and I think there's some huge advantages to that. Very little. I don't expect them to support me. I think that's my job. I don't want to burden them. I'd love to have them around, but I also really want them to be individual people in their own right. I love having them around. I don't see my daughter that much now because she's in New Zealand and I'm here. But those times that we do spend together are very special. You know, they say if you love something, set it free. Well, it's true. I want them to be free to live the great life that they deserve. So what does it boil down to? Well, it comes down to something really basic. To Hannah and Ben, if you do watch this, I know you know this already. I'll say it again. I always love you. I love you now. I always love you. I am a father. This is allowed. I have had a course.